When should you have to pay for an update to a land title survey? People call them ALTA surveys. That's a fairly common occurrence. We are asked to update land title surveys on a pretty regular basis. Almost every land title survey we do, we're asked to do an update. Sometimes we'll ask the client to pay for that update. Other times we won't. So what's the difference? What determines when you need to pay for an update as a client? So before we answer that question, I just want to real briefly review, what is a land title survey or an ALTA survey? It's a special kind of survey that you get to remove the survey exception from a land title insurance policy. That's what it is. And there's a certain set of rules that we have to follow as land surveyors when we prepare those kinds of surveys. So why would you need an update to a land title survey to begin with? Why, after I have finished a survey, would you as a client come back to me and ask me to provide you an update? So there's a few different reasons. I'm going to give you three of the most common. One is sometimes the land records change. You might say, well, how does that happen? The most common thing that happens is there's some kind of property transfer. So this happens a lot on development projects. The property gets transferred from one entity to another entity. Sometimes it's shell companies. Sometimes it's a real transfer. So it might be a transfer from the original subdivider, say, to a builder that's going to buy the lots. That's just an example. Okay, so anytime those records change like that, that's going to change deeds. Then the bank and the title insurance company are going to want an updated land title survey. So that's one reason. It could also be that easements have been recorded against the property, or easements or other encumbrances have been eliminated. That will also occasionally happen. So that's an example of a change to the land records that might require an update. The second reason that you might need an update is the physical site changes. That doesn't happen as often, but it can happen, especially if you've got a land development project where things are still in some form of construction. So we may start the survey, let's say, and the lot is vacant, and then by the time we're done with the survey, maybe the site's been rough graded or there's some infrastructure that's been put in. Then we may be asked to do an update because of the physical changes to the site. And then the third most common reason why you need to update a land title survey is because someone asks for the survey to change. They want to change on the survey itself. Okay. And when I say someone, it could be the client, it could be the lender, it could be the title insurance company. So it could be any of those parties. So that's why you might need an update on a survey. When should the client have to pay for that? If an update's needed, how do I as a land surveyor determine when is it fair to ask my client to pay for an update? Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 reasons why. Is it 5, 4, 5? Let me see. I'm going to give you 5, sorry. 5 reasons why. Don't laugh, Elaine. Elaine laughs when I do that. 5 reasons why you might need to pay for an update to a title survey. And all of these reasons have to do with the amount of work that it is for my team to actually prepare the update. So if it's a minor amount of work and you're being reasonable, we will typically do that at no charge. If it's a significant amount of work, more than a couple hours of work, or you're being a pain in the butt, then I'm going to ask you to pay for the update. So here's the 5 reasons why you may be asked to pay for an update to a land title survey. One is if you've waited longer than 30 days. So as a general rule, we put in our contracts that you have a 30-day window to provide us with review comments on the survey. And if you wait longer than 30 days, we're typically going to ask you to pay for an update. Now, why is that? Well, one of the main reasons why is it's very difficult for me as a land surveyor to predict what my workload is going to be beyond 30 days, right? So I just don't know how busy I'm going to be in 30 days. So when we prepare the original pricing for your survey, it's based on that next 30-day window, right? We have a rough idea how busy we're going to be in that next 30-day window. And believe it or not, I know a lot of surveyors don't do this, but at my company, the price for your survey is based to some extent on how busy we are, right? Do I have to work nights and weekends? Do I got to pay overtime to try and meet your deadline? So once you go beyond that 30-day window, now I've got more uncertainty as the consultant, and I'm probably going to ask you to pay for the update, right? Okay, so that's the first reason. Second reason is if I've already made one set of revisions. So we typically also put this, it's right in our contract, in our scope of services usually. We will do one set of revisions, typically one set of reasonable revisions to a land title survey. But when somebody comes back, after we've done the first set of revisions, when you come back to ask for a second set of changes, as a general rule, we're going to ask you to pay for that. Okay? And part of the reason we do that is we want to give the client some incentive to bundle the review comments together. Typically we get review comments from the lender and from the title company and potentially from the buyer's attorney or the seller's attorney, and we want to get all that in one bundle. We don't want you to piecemeal it because that's extra work for us, and then we may change, if we don't bundle it, we change something for the lender, and then one of the attorneys doesn't like it, and we got to change it back. So we're trying to force the client to coordinate that for us, so it can be more efficient. So you get one set of revisions, typically at my shop, within that 30-day window, if they're reasonable. And then after that first set of revisions, we're going to ask you to pay for an update. Okay, the third reason we're going to ask you to pay for an update is if a new site visit is required. So that as an example, that if there's been physical changes to the site, and the main reason we make you pay for that is because it involves time. We have to make a trip to the site, and I'll do another video on this, but we do not do updated land title surveys based on photos that your real estate broker took, right? If there's been physical changes to the site, at our company, the licensed land surveyor wants to see that on the ground. So that's generally just because of the effort involved there. If we got to make a second site visit, we're going to ask you to pay for an update. And then finally, if the title company goes in and makes major changes to the exceptions in the title report, that is a lot of work for us. We are probably going to ask you to pay for an update. And what really drives us crazy is when the title company goes in and they remove or add exceptions and then renumber the exceptions. That just creates a lot of extra work for us because we have the exceptions, not only are they shown on the title survey in a numbered list, but then on the map, the actual map itself, we usually go in and identify each of the easements with that number. The number on the easement that identifies the easement matches the exception in the title report. So if you change those numbers, it's a lot of work to revise that survey. Okay, so we're going to ask you to pay for that. The last thing, and this is kind of unrelated to the others, is if you're in a big hurry, I'm probably going to ask you to pay for an update. So as a general rule in our contract, we ask for 10 to 15 days to make updates. You know, if you call me and need something in 24 hours or 48 hours, I'm going to ask you to pay for that because it's probably going to involve, working some nights or working weekends, and we don't like to do that. We don't like to do that to our team. So I'm going to ask you to pay for that if you're in a big hurry. So now you know, right? We have to update land title surveys. We do it all the time. Okay, so when do you pay? When do you not pay? Right? Every surveyor is a little bit different, but I gave you some general rules of thumb. Just to review, if you've waited longer than 30 days, if I've already done one set of revisions, if we have to visit the site again, if the title company changed the exceptions in the title report, or if you're in a big hurry. If you can check any of those 5 boxes or more than one, we're probably going to ask you to pay a reasonable fee to get your land title survey updated.